The joint marathon continues on Channel 1+1. I'm Solomia Wittwicka, and this is TSN. The number of people injured after the night shelling of Komishani and Novomykolivka in the Kherson region has risen to 4. In total, nearly 24 private houses have been destroyed across the region, a store, an administrative building, and public transport. In Kherson, the occupiers have once again scattered anti-personnel petal mines. During the demining of one of them, a law enforcement officer was injured. His foot had to be amputated. And in the Kharkiv region, a Russian attack drone hit a police service vehicle. The law enforcement officer sustained multiple injuries and died at the scene. The Russians struck Polozova with a guided aerial bomb. There, a civilian man was wounded. A monument-making enterprise, warehouses of a farming business, and residential houses were damaged. For the second day in a row, the Russians are attacking the industrial zone of Sumy. The day before, they wounded a person and triggered a large-scale fire at an enterprise. And in the morning, they struck again. Fire raged at the site of the impact. And also in the morning, the enemy hit the outskirts of Sumy with a Zircon missile. There were no casualties. The Russians killed a married couple in Zaporizhzhia region. They struck a car near the village of Zapasne with a drone. And in Preobrazhenka, 2 villagers were killed by an enemy drone. Over the course of the day, the occupiers attacked 20 settlements in the region. They treacherously attacked during the day when the streets were crowded and hit directly into a crowd at the market. The targets were ordinary shoppers who had come to buy potatoes. The woman selling them was killed, and along with her, one of the customers. At this time, it is also known that 11 people were injured. TSN correspondent Olena Chernyaeva has been working in the city since early morning as it recovers from Russian terror.
This is the outskirts of Chornomorsk. A drone crashed right onto a small market that has been operating here since the morning. Nearby there is a car parking lot and a busy city road. There were a lot of people when the attack began. The strike hit a vehicle from which potatoes were being sold. There was a small line next to it. Preliminarily, one of the victims is a woman who was selling potatoes. She was 53 years old. Another victim apparently was a 70-year-old customer. Witnesses say that most people ignored the air raid siren. After all, everyone is exhausted by the endless alerts that have been sounding for 6 days in a row, both day and night. The enemy is launching dozens of Geran drones at Odesa region. These are decoys used to wear down the air defense system. These drones fly one by one, constantly changing course, which is why the alerts are non-stop. People say that apparently the enemy was counting on them getting tired of the constant alerts and ignoring the next one. One of the victims who sells pillows at the market says he was sitting in his car at the moment of the strike. He survived only because he put a pillow between himself and the windshield.
I can't hear very well now, and things like that. I have bruises on my body from being between my car and the minibus. That Shahid drone fell here. Well, I didn't see what was falling, but I heard a whistling sound. The whistle was so nasty, sharp, and annoying. The second time you're standing there, you see them flying back and forth. Every day there's an air raid alert. Everyone has already gotten used to it, me too.
A video of the Shahid drone strike is spreading online. It dives straight onto the road, in broad daylight. It's morning, 10 o'clock. There are shops nearby and a college where now dozens of windows have been blown out. Fortunately, all the students went down to the shelter when the air raid siren sounded.
There was an alert. All the children were in the basement. I was in the storage room and the sound, it just shot up like a plane or something. And then it exploded and that was it. I didn't even have time to get to the basement. The glass flew everywhere, everything went flying. It was very scary.
At the moment, it is known that 11 people have been injured. Among them is a 1.5-year-old child. One person is in extremely critical condition. 6 people are still in the hospital. The minibus that took the main hit caught fire after being struck and burned to the ground. The explosion tore the car into pieces. 2 more minibuses and 6 passenger cars were hit by shrapnel.
A fire broke out at the scene, which rescuers quickly extinguished. 2 cars were destroyed and 13 were damaged. Non-residential buildings located nearby were also damaged.
The mayor of Chornomorsk has already announced that the victims will be buried at the city's expense. Tomorrow has been declared a day of mourning in the city. Olena Chernyaeva, Ivan Savchenko, Odesa region, TSN 1+, Marathon, United News.
The capital came under a massive combined attack. At present, it is known that 6 people have been killed and 35 injured in Kyiv, including 2 children. In the Sviatoshinsky district, a residential building was hit at the level of the 7th floor. In the Obolonsky district, a 9-story residential building was struck, causing fires to break out. And in the Podilsky district, a high-rise building was hit at the level of the 15th floor. 13 people were rescued there. In the Dniprovsky district, rescuers extinguished fires in 2 apartments. 17 people were rescued there as well. In the Darnitsky district, debris fell onto the grounds of a school, and in Holosivsky, onto the grounds of a hospital. A fire broke out on the roof of a 5-story residential building in the Solomyansky district as well. The most heavily damaged building is in the Lisovyi residential area located in the Desnyansky district of Kyiv. It was there that people were killed by the drone strike. Apartments from the 9th to the 4th floors have also been destroyed. Rescue and recovery operations are still ongoing there. Azerbaijan summoned the Russian ambassador after today's shelling of their embassy in Kyiv. Mikhail Yevdokimov was presented with a protest over the impact of an Iskander missile or its fragments on the embassy grounds, which occurred around 1 in the morning. As a result of the explosion, a section of the embassy's outer wall was completely destroyed, and the administrative building, consular section, and service vehicles on the premises were also damaged. Fortunately, no one was killed or injured. In addition, the Russian envoy was reminded of previous attacks on their facilities in Ukraine. Specifically, the honorary consulate of Azerbaijan in Kharkiv and the shelling of Sokar oil facilities in the Odesa region. And all these facts raise questions about the deliberate nature of the missile strikes. That's what they stated in Baku, adding that they had already provided the coordinates of their diplomatic missions to Moscow back in 2022 so that these could be taken into account during the shelling. Today, the president of Ukraine personally discussed the damage to the embassy over the phone with the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev. He condemned the Kremlin strikes and expressed condolences to those affected by these attacks as a result of the conversation. As Zelensky wrote, there is a green light for certain areas of bilateral cooperation between our countries. Last night, the Ukrainian Defense Forces attacked the port of Novorossiysk. It is likely that it was struck with missiles called Long Neptune, which President Zelensky mentioned in the morning and which can hit targets at distances of up to 1,000 kilometers. This Russian port is the second largest oil export center and an important hub for shipping oil products across the Black Sea. This operation was carried out in particular by Alpha SBU Special Forces together with the Main Intelligence Directorate, the State Border Guard Service, and the Special Operations Forces. A powerful detonation caused an equally intense fire. It is known that the docks, the oil terminal, and also an enemy surface-to-air missile system stationed there were damaged. Reuters, citing its own sources, reports that after such an explosion, the port of Novorossiysk has suspended oil exports. And also during the night, a strike was recorded at the Saratov oil refinery in Russia. A fire broke out there as well. He regained consciousness after clinical death, massive blood loss, losing an arm, a leg, an eye, and with extensive brain damage. An incredible survival story of a soldier from the Pokrovsk direction in Dnipro. With incredible effort, he was pulled from the battlefield after being hit by an enemy drone. Ukrainian and American surgeons operated together. After coming out of a coma, the soldier finally regained consciousness and, despite his brain injury, recognized his family. TSN correspondent Olha Pavlovska will tell this story.
She strokes the face of her rescued son in the intensive care unit. The mother thanks everyone who fought to keep him alive. Andrei was seriously wounded by an enemy drone in Donetsk region back on October 25th. The fact that he was able to be transported to Dnipro is already a miracle, the doctors admit. Shrapnel destroyed his arm and leg, knocked out one eye, and damaged his internal organs. But the greatest threat was the extremely severe head injury.
There wasn't a single uninjured spot on Andrei. His head had a horrific wound, and through the white gauze you could clearly see the structures of his brain.
They couldn't operate on him right away. The condition was too critical, the doctors say, to perform such a complex surgery. American neurosurgeon Oleg Volodka from Texas arrived in Dnipro. Here's how he, together with his Ukrainian colleagues, is saving the wounded Andrei. First, under a microscope, the doctors operated on the brain and then closed the affected areas.
It's necessary to close up to create a membrane for the brain and then on this flap. And then the remaining skin, like these edges, try to piece it together. Piece by piece, they put together the skin and what was left of it.
10 liters of transfused blood and intensive therapy finally produced results. Andrei started breathing on his own and then opened his eye. And finally, he swore at the doctors who were nearby. And with this, they admit he didn't offend them, but actually cheered them up quite a bit.
It's actually a very good and positive sign that he started talking, started showing emotions. That's very good.
Andri's family says they believed he wouldn't give up even here.
He recognized us.
In the military,
Since 2014, he couldn't do otherwise, Andri's family says. Since then, he was always in the hottest spots.
He was even surrounded like that in Kursk. They made their way out on their own until they were captured. They ran 50 kilometers on foot through the fields. They hid in some cellars. He even said there was nothing to drink at all. They were pulled out. We told him, "Sweetheart, this is your second birthday."
From the age of 5 to 6, he already had an army.
It's still hard for him to talk about what he went through. But he has already told his family that he dreams of seeing his grandson, who will soon turn 1, and is preparing to join the protest together with parents and children. To walk through it again at the victory parade. Olya Pavlovska, Alexander Kulish, Dnipro, TSN 1+1, Marathon United News.
A bloody attack on pedestrians in the Swedish capital. An unidentified person drove a bus into people who were standing at a public transport stop in Stockholm. There are already reports of the first casualties, but their number has not yet been disclosed. There are also injured people. They had to be airlifted by helicopter. The incident occurred during rush hour around 3 p.m. local time, and it is known that the bus was double-decker. It crashed into the stop while people were standing nearby. Several people who were trapped by the vehicle had to be rescued from the wreckage. The bus driver has already been arrested, and the reasons for his actions are now being investigated. For now, the tragedy is being investigated as involuntary manslaughter with aggravating circumstances. Slovak schoolchildren staged a protest against Robert Fico over his remarks about the war in Ukraine. And this happened during the Prime Minister's meeting with high school students in the city of Poprad. The politician was giving a lecture about the European Union and, in his usual manner, accused it of planning to allocate 140 billion euros to prolong the war in Ukraine. These words sparked considerable outrage among the youth. To the commotion in the hall, Robert Fico responded with the following phrase: "If you're such heroes wearing black t-shirts and supporting the war, then go there yourselves." After that, as a sign of protest, the students began jingling their keys, and then someone raised the Ukrainian flag, and dozens of schoolchildren left the hall. At the beginning of November, in this same city of Poprad, before Fico's speech at one of the schools, students staged a similar protest. They drew a heart in the colors of the Ukrainian flag, as a result of which one of the students was questioned by the police. After that, Fico's speech was cancelled, but he himself said that it had been postponed. He asked Zelensky to stop the influx of Ukrainian men to Germany. Chancellor Friedrich Merz discussed this with the Ukrainian president during a phone conversation. The politician stated that he asked Volodymyr Zelensky to ensure that young men from Ukraine do not come to his country in large numbers, but instead serve in their own country because they are needed there more. After permission was granted for men aged 18 to 22 to leave the country, the number of asylum seekers in Germany increased tenfold. Amidst this news, the Prime Minister of Bavaria, Markus Söder, proposed introducing entry restrictions for this category of refugees from Ukraine. Later, Berlin decided that Ukrainians who arrived in Germany after April 1, 2025, would receive reduced benefits. Instead of 563 euros, this amount will be reduced to 440. There will also be certain restrictions on access to integration courses and the provision of integration services. And thus the nearly 4-year period of special status for Ukrainian refugees in Germany is coming to an end. Starting from January 1, 2026, parents will receive 50,000 hryvnias for the birth of a child. The corresponding law was signed by President Volodymyr Zelensky. The same amount, that is 50,000 hryvnias, will be paid by the state for the birth of each subsequent child. In addition, the law also provides for an increase in other types of monetary payments. In particular, 7,000 hryvnias per month as prenatal support for pregnant, uninsured women. 7,000 hryvnias as childcare assistance for children up to 1 year old, and 8,000 per month under the Ye Yasla and Ye Sadok programs for raising children from 2 to 8 years old. And now my colleagues, the hosts of 1+1, Natalka Mosichuk and Maxim Sukhenko, will take over the marathon. And I will be back at 8 p.m. with the evening news summary, so see you then. Everything will definitely be Ukraine.